they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump
Do you
economy
know
was
how
great, that
economies
their
work?
economy was terrible.
Vice
They don't
President Harris,
just
I do
switch
want to ask you your
overnight.
response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires.
American exceptionalism.
Allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that
American exceptionalism.
on quantum computing.
America.
Focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short
The
end
workforce
of
has
the
been
stick
sold
in
out
terms of
like
workers'
way,
rights.
way before
What
y'all.
Donald
Like
Trump
NAFTA,
did,
bro.
let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi.
Before that, we could talk about like World War II, like your boy General Ford. I mean General Ford, Henry Ford. Henry Ford.
When
Yeah,
we know
Henry
that
Ford.
she
Whatever.
was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have.
But the chip,
because she has no policy.
the-
Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my
chip stocks were flying up during
She's gone to my philosophy. But
his
if she ever got elected, she'd change
presidency.
it, and it will.
But it was because it was foreign chips.
She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what
Do you
she's
understand
done to our
Marxism?
country, and when you look at these millions and
then Karl Marx was
people
just-
pouring into our country monthly,
Oh, my
whereas
God.
I believe 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21.
He was witnessing socialism. Karl Marx didn't invent socialism.
Criminals, many of these people
You
come
idiot.
from criminals, and that's bad for our economy too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy.
Oh, what up,
insane.
everybody that showed
We have
up?
to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often tried to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of
Because Donald Trump operates off of Uchi Wally Wally and one mic. Sometimes he's Uchi Wally Wally, sometimes he's one mic.
The plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the...
You can't get an abortion in the 9th month, you idiot.
Not the current governor is doing an excellent job, but the governor before...
And you don't actually care about women's health.
Decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby, and that's why I did.
Execute the baby?
That predominates because they're radical. The
Fam.
Democrats are radical in that, and her vice president.
The whole argument about women's health and when it comes to abortion and a woman's bodily autonomy, they really don't care. Because if you cared about women's bodily autonomy, you cared about women's health, then you wouldn't try to destroy all the social programs that help a mother with her child.
Okay, and that's not okay with me. Hence the vote. But what I did is something.
He said abortion in the 9th month. Yo, shout out to all 4 people that are here. If you've watched my content before, appreciate you. If not, make sure to subscribe.
We were able to do that. Now, I believe
It's hilarious that he's talking about abortion. Like, you put in you and your administration put in wild, weird judges, like it was that Coney Barrett broad and the weird dude that was getting drunk and touching people. You put those people in so you could remove Roe versus Wade, but you didn't do that because you care about children's lives. You did that because you want to further control a woman's body. You don't care about babies. You care about the production of babies. Because you only see a child as a tax write-off in regards to it being a worker eventually, or it being a soldier, or it being a criminal. Because all of those things pay the capitalist system.
It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took
Yo, both of their makeup artists is wow. He is mad orange.
And I give tremendous credit to those 6.
And Kamala really looks like a coconut.
In this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies. It's actually a surprising fact.
You lie!
Understand how we got here. Donald Trump.
Babies get whacked. Oh, this is making me think of that Chirac movie. Yo, Spike Lee should be arrested for that terrible movie. And Nick Cannon should stop making music. Nick Cannon, don't make music no more.
There are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means.
It's because they don't care about babies, bruh.
A violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail.
What's funny is that they're not talking about every woman, though.
Parking lot? She didn't want that.
I live in Ohio. There was a young girl, if I'm not mistaken, that had to. It was either a girl here or a girl that stayed over that had to go somewhere else to be able to get an abortion because she was like young, and then also with all the stuff that's going on with Roe, she wasn't able to get an abortion.
To put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade as president of the United States.
What was wild is that Kamala is talking like she wasn't the vice president for the past 4 years with Joe Biden's incontinent ass. Couldn't they afford to codify Roe then? People have been arguing about abortion for a long time. He had the House and the Senate, they didn't codify abortion. Joe Biden was the president for 4 years, they didn't codify abortion. I'm trying to understand when they're going to do the thing that they claim they're going to do.
She goes again, it's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've got.
Yo, if you here watching the live, hit that like button.
And everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well, I won't have to because, again, and two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just.
It's funny how the Democrats and the Republicans do this, where the Democrats on one side of the ass, they'll act like they are incapable of doing anything because on the other side of the ass, what up, Cat? That Republicans on the other side of the ass are incapable of being able to be negotiated with. That's what the Democrats argue. But then when the Republicans are in office, The Republicans can do whatever they want. The Democrats are just like, man, we don't know. They're just so powerful, even though we both work the same job. They are. This is not a debate. This is a pickup game between two homies. They don't care about you.
And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think you're speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people.
What?
And a lot of
They forgave. Wow. Okay. I'm not a fan of, because politics, again, it's two sides of the same ass. But materially speaking, they forgave mad bread in regards to student loan debt. And he's saying they didn't. But the wild thing about Trump, or just about people like him, especially being a loudmouth New Yorker, he can just say stuff and people just believe him. And it's wild because he's like a loudmouth New Yorker from Queens, though. And Queens is a weird place. Outside of like Nas, Mobb Deep, LL Cool J, like you can keep a lot of Queens, like Fat Cat, I guess, and all that. But you can get 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks. It's Tony Ayo from Queens. G-Unit as a whole. But a lot of Queens you can keep.
What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is.
But Queens is a place you can keep. And he's from Queens. And I remember when he ran for president in 2016 or whatever. And people were like, yo, like, some people were like, I feel like I should vote for him. I'm like, fam, he's a finesser. How are you falling for this? Like, his grift is not even a good grift. He doesn't say coherent sentences. And he has jowls. He looks like a withered orange.
Vice President,
excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization.
Wait, is what, a millimeter long?
I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows.
Well, it's because IVF benefits
fertilization, IVF. And the other
a certain group of people. It benefits people with money
you should ask
more often than anybody else. And as far as the quote-unquote racial dynamic, more
would you do that?
white people benefit from IVF than any other group.
Because under Roe v. Wade, you could do abortions.
Like reproductive technologies in regards to IVF, in regards to artificial insemination and all that, that benefits a certain group of people, financially speaking and class speaking.
And then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden.
That's wild that they always talking about the illegal border crossings and they never talk about the root of the problem as to the imperialism and colonialism that causes a lot of people to want to leave their homes. They never speak about that. They never speak about why somebody from Guatemala, like Guyana, and all of these places, Mexico, why they come here. They never speak about that. They always want to tout border security. Yo, we got to keep them out because they're bringing in the wrong people. And then statistically speaking, a lot of those people, the people that they're talking about, aren't the people that are trafficking in drugs. A lot of times when people are actually bringing in any paraphernalia, it's usually white folk because they're like, if it's, for instance, if somebody coming from Mexico, they'll commission or threaten some white tourists, like, yo, take this back with you, because they're not gonna get checked. You think a 4-year-old coming from Colombia has got cocaine on their back?
And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the board.
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said,
Build the wall, is what he's
people
gonna
don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible.
We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies. We have all of the rallies. No one leaves my rallies. I love my rallies. I say all the things. I love all the things. I love all the stuff. America 101, America 100, America 2024. That's I have no idea about what Project 2025 is. Although I've done all the things that work in the framework of Project 2025. Whatever. And Project 2025 is just America.
All over the United States, and a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating
the dogs. Yo, he likes to make sound bites.
That live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
In Springfield, people that are illegally immigrating here are eating dogs and cats. That's gonna be the soundbite. That's gonna be the soundbite.
It's a very simple phrase: "Make America great again."
Make America great again is a loaded statement, fam.
This country doesn't have a
Anybody with any understanding of the history of this country knows that that's not a good thing, because that doesn't exist how you think it does. And for him to say that after he just said that people that are illegally migrating here eating dogs and cats is wild.
With the immigrant community.
I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
People on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying that
manager.
dog was eaten by
What?
people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what.
Yo, I live in Ohio. I don't know nobody eating dogs.
This is
Again, both of them are trash.
In this election, I actually have the endorsement
Yeah, he just be.
of 200
Yeah, he just says whatever.
who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Getting an endorsement from Dick Cheney is disgusting.
And
He's a war criminal.
No.
And bragging about getting an endorsement from Dick Cheney is
Former
wild.
president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American
just rambling.
people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump will give you a quick minute to respond.
Yeah. Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
Most of those people, not so graciously, they did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan,
Yo.
the Taliban, and the 13 people who's
What? How are you bragging about not? How are you bragging about firing people and saying and bragging about them not having to? Wouldn't that be a?
generals, all
a knock,
people,
like
because that was one of the most
a demerit on your
handled situations
leadership,
anybody
on your
has ever
cabinet,
seen.
just
So
showing how
when somebody does a
poorly
bad
run
job,
it is that you have to
I
fire
fire him.
people?
And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they? But
With
they
nobody
have
else
done
can
such
they?
a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire
Inflate,
any of their-
bruh. It is
They have to
corporate
save people.
greed is the real. Inflation is a
You have to
not.
have books written about it.
Inflation never
Just to
matches
finish,
the
I got more
actual
votes
goings
than any
on of the
Republican
world.
in
If anything,
history
inflation
by
just
far.
reflects corporate
In
greed
fact, I got
and
more votes
shows
than
that
any
people
sitting president
with a
in
lot of
history
money
by far.
don't care about people with not a lot of
Continue on
money
immigration. It was what you wanted to
and
talk
feel
about
like it
later,
can
so let's
raise
get back to the
prices
deportation,
any arbitrary way and blame it
proposal
on
that the
random
Vice
things.
President has
War.
reacted to as well. President Trump, you called
They
this the
blame
largest domestic
it
deportation
on
operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the
sickness.
national
They blame it on
guard. If
anything.
things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police.
As far as like
You've also
diseases
said
going
you would
around.
use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah. It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country, and they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done.
That's wild for literally Trump. European white people came to this nation, stole it, murdered the inhabitants of this place, the indigenous people, and have the nerve to call anybody violent immigrants.
It's called migrant crime, and it's happening.
Have the nerve. You have the unmitigated gall to ever speak out of your mouth about immigration and migrants as if European people didn't come here, steal this land from people who were living here and took them out. Like there's like an innumerable amount of massacres and involving land grabs that have happened here. I mean, you can think of like Trail of Tears is one that comes to mind.
Election interference has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this.
Move forward, turn the page.
And address the needs of the American people.
The needs of the American
what
people.
we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for. Address what we must do to support our small businesses. Address
All right,
down the price
this
of
is really dumb.
But frankly,
I'm out.
the